This is intended for mature audiences only, so please use discretion when listening. Welcome to Call to Dispatch, the show where we hear real stories from the people who answer the call. My name is Dave, and on today's episode, I'm joined by someone who dedicated 12 years to policing and rose through the ranks to become a sergeant. Her journey is one of leadership, resilience, and breaking barriers in a field that doesn't always make space easily. Today's guest is Georgie Harrison. Georgie, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hello, I'm very good, thank you.
Good to have you here today. Before we get into the nitty gritty of the show, I just want to actually take an opportunity to just raise a glass to you. Okay. Now, the listeners cannot see this, but I know that you can verify there's a glass in my hand with some form of liquid in here, and just want to take the opportunity to just raise a toast to you. Okay. Thank you for the years of service that you have given. I
Cheers.
know that I know that it's not
Ching
easy.
ching.
I know that it's not easy what you've done, but you've come through it. You're still here, and you're here to tell the story. So here's to you.
Yeah, thank you. It's very kind.
So let's get straight into it. Okay, 12 years of policing. Do you just want
Mm.
to give the listeners a quick rundown of what your career was?
Yeah, I was 18 and I started the Police and Criminal Justice Services Foundation degree because it looked like the easiest degree. Uh, and then as part of that, I became a special constable. That for probably just under 12 months, I think, before I got into the regulars. It was I think it was 2 days after my 19th birthday. And then was in the police, and after about, I want to say 5 years, I did my sergeant, maybe
Mhm.
6 years. So for the last 7 years, I was a skipper. Seven
Okay,
or 7 years.
okay, wow. And then, so 7 years is skipper.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it might have been 6 years. I'm just trying to think what date it was. 2018, I think.
Okay.
So,
Now, in all of that time, okay, let's sort of go right back to the beginning. Okay, so can you remember the moment that you decided that you wanted to become a police officer and what actually drew you to that profession?
honestly, I've been going around universities looking at different courses like psychology and law and stuff, but I just didn't know what I wanted to do. And then my mum, who was also a cop, was like, "Have you looked at the police degree? And it'd be way cheaper, and it's only 2 years." So I was like, "I'll give it a go," and then didn't really look back because it was something I enjoyed doing.
Okay. Um, what was your training experience like, and how did it shape your outlook? While you were getting into the job.
Um, It was much better than it is now. Like, in terms of actual legal training and things like that, I feel like we were held to a higher standard of understanding what we were actually signing up for. There was a little bit more of a straight talking vibe where you'd be like, if you asked an SFQ, a stupid fucking question, then you're going to get the answer rather
Yeah.
than nowadays. It's very like mollycoddling and tiptoeing around people's feelings and stuff, which there's a time and a place for, but sometimes you need someone to tell you straight so that you can get it right because
Mhm.
it's such an important job. And then even with like use of force and stuff, it was a lot rougher. It was like a lot more realistic of what you're likely to face in the streets. Um, it's definitely changed over the last few years to be a lot softer approach to everything, which I don't think is a good thing because it's setting people up to fail.
Yeah. I've kind of heard that as well, that the training isn't quite as realistic as what it would be out there in the real world.
Mm.
And for that reason, you kind of find a lot of new officers kind of falling by the wayside.
Yeah, I mean, I I I don't think anything can really prepare you for the stuff you actually see and deal with, because it can be so spontaneous and shocking. But there's like a level of force that you're not prepared for nowadays. They
Yeah,
might teach you about how to get out of someone trying to strangle you, but it's all sort of like touch drills and things like that. And obviously, I get that we're not going to start strangling each other in training, but I remember when I was doing it when I first started, the scenarios felt so realistic, so adrenaline inducing, so like I must get through this because I'm going to get hurt otherwise. Like, even by accident, you're gonna
yeah,
get hurt, you need to learn how to protect yourself, whereas now it's all sort of like red tape, safety, and yeah, I think it's doing people a disservice because they don't really know what they're about to face when they go out on the mean streets.
yeah. Speaking of going out onto the mean streets, do you remember the first job that you ever attended?
I remember the first blue light run I've been on, but I
Okay,
couldn't actually tell you the first job. I remember the first fight I was in,
tell us
uh
about that.
So I remember just literally being like, so it was someone trying to jump out of a window of a high-rise block of flats. So
Oh
we're trying
wow.
to obviously stop them, protect life and limb and all that larky. Um, but I remember being like, oh my god, are we allowed to do this? I can't believe it. But once we got him on the floor and restrained him, I was like, oh, actually, like this makes perfect sense because otherwise he'd be out that window. And I think I can't remember what happened to him because it was so long ago, but I think he ended up being taken to hospital. But that was before 136 could be used in someone else's house because it wasn't
Mm,
his flat. Um, so we couldn't even just 136 him. So it was very much like you did have to think on your feet a lot more, and that's what is something that's lacking now is the lack of autonomy, which is where I went with my future was about autonomy because we used to have to use critical thinking. We used to have to think under pressure and make decisions. And now it's very much like driven by process and things like that. But the
mm,
whole nature of policing is that it's so dynamic. You can't just always follow a process. You've got to have like things in your back pocket and a toolbox that you can call upon. We
mhm.
used to call it the Ways and Means Act, but that's obviously not real. So we do have to be careful from legal perspective, but if you're trying to save someone's life, do you know what I mean? Like you'll find a way to do it. Whereas
Yeah,
nowadays, I think there is some pushback from people where they're like, "Well, hang on, if I'm going to get in trouble for using force on someone trying to jump out a window and I don't have a power, like how am I gonna protect myself, my family, and all this stuff?"
yeah,
So it's it's changed it so cops aren't acting on their instinctive desire to help people a lot of the time. Not all cops, by the way. Most cops actually would just do it,
yeah,
but there's a few that are scared of getting in trouble and things like that without
yeah,
realizing they're there to do a job,
yeah.
do what you need to
Just
do.
just for the benefits of the listeners who might not know what 136 is, are you able to
Oh
just quickly
yeah.
give an explanation as to what that is?
Yeah, so it's when you can section someone. So if they're suffering with a mental disorder and they are at risk themselves or another, then you can section them, detain them to a place of safety so they can be assessed. But in the good old days, there was very limited powers around it. They had to be in a public place and things like that. They've extended it now, so there's certain situations where it can be used in a private place. For example, if they ran into someone else's house, which is what happened with that job.
Yeah. So earlier on, you mentioned that your mum was also in the force. Outside of her, did you have any other sort of role models in law enforcement, sort of growing up?
Yeah, my dad was so my mum actually joined in her 40s, but my dad's been a cop for my whole life. He
Oh, wow.
retired at DI. Um, so like it's a bit of a running joke that we're like got blue blood in our family because you've got
Yeah.
my dad, mum, me, my sister, my cousin, her husband, my ex-husband. We're all cops. And my brother broke the mold because he became a marine and trained to be a paramedic. So he's got green blood.
I mean, when you list all of that, the whole family is emergency service based, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's very like normal for us. We weren't like I don't know. When mum said, "Why don't you do a police degree?" I was just like, "Yeah, all right." Like, it wasn't like a big decision. I was just like, "If I don't like it, I just won't do it." But, like,
Yeah,
they like it, so I'll
yeah.
give it a go.
So that leads me on nicely to the next question, okay? And what it is when you decided to actually pursue a career in policing, I was going to ask how people in your family sort of reacted and what their concerns were, but I'm going to switch that to because I'm guessing your family were kind of like, okay, well, yeah, this is the family business, so to
Yeah.
speak. But what about friends? Did you have any close friends that maybe expressed concerns about you joining?
Not so much concerns. I mean, my career started. I was brought up in a village, and my first place to police for 6 months was that village. So I was literally like 19, only recently finished school, basically seeing all the people that I knew from school and stuff all the time. But I like to think I'm always friendly to people, and polite. Even if I've got to deal with someone in the worst times of their life, I'm always really nice about it. But I
Mm,
did have, I do remember one situation. I was out with a load of girls for a night out, and like in my naivety, um, we always go toilet together. Do you know what I mean? Like that's just a girls
yeah,
thing.
safety in
But
numbers.
yeah, and then, I was like, "Is anyone coming in?" They're like, "No, no, it's alright, you go." So it's gone, and then 4 of them come out of the cubicle. I was like, "Oh, you all go together?" I thought they'd left me out, but then they're like, "Oh, no, we were, like, sniffing," and I was like, "Oh." They were like, "We didn't wanna make you feel awkward." Well, I was like, "Well, you just have now, because now I
Mm,
know that, like, I actually feel like I can't relax and enjoy this night out."
mm,
So I never went out with him ever again. Like, I left that night out early because I was just like, I don't really judge people, care what people do, but if it's gonna risk my job, my livelihood,
yeah,
and also I just don't really like it particularly. I don't like being out with people who are on drugs and stuff like that because,
mm,
like, aside from all the police stuff, like, it's just really annoying, and people on drugs don't know how annoying they are. So people will that sort of reaction to you joining the police, they'll assume you're being judgmental because of that. I'm being
yeah,
judgmental because I'm judgmental. That is
yeah,
it.
yeah,
And I'll own that. Like, I don't care.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, like, I had a little bit of stick for that, like just leaving and stuff. But I was like, nah, it's just not my bag, it's your bag. So you
yeah,
do you, I'll do me. And um yeah, I mean, like, you get the odd person from school and stuff, like, "Oh, you fucking doing the feds," and stuff like that, but
mm,
I'm very much, like, in my own world. I don't really care what people think.
yeah.
So,
So outside of those friendships, did you have any other kind of friendships that maybe changed after you started the job, or perhaps even fell by the wayside over the years?
I've had loads through the years that have done that anyway, with or without the job, but certainly there was probably people I hung around with as a teenager that, like, I wouldn't stay associated with.
Mm,
Because in the UK police, you have to notify any associations that are notify the organisation of any associations that could be criminal or unethical or like a conflict of interest. So
mhm,
I believe you even have to disclose it if like your partner was a lawyer and things like
mm,
that.
yeah,
Um, so for me, it was just like for an easy life. I generally just hung around with cops.
yeah.
Most of my friends were cops, so,
So did you ever have a situation where the job kind of made you feel isolated from people you cared about?
uh, more than once, many times.
Yeah. How
Um,
did, how did you handle that?
I mean, when you say feeling isolated from people I care about, do you mean like the people outside of the job?
Yeah, mainly people outside of the job, because I'm
Yeah.
guessing the people within the job kind of understand the world that you come from anyway. But people outside of that, there's certain things that you can't really speak to them about on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. Yeah, it is like that. I mean, especially if you've had like a big job on with your team and it's been really traumatic, you tend to just sort of become more tight knit as a
Yeah.
team. And, you meet up with your friends who have normal lives and normal jobs. And you can't really go around and just be like, "Oh, yeah, I've dealt with someone that had, like, hung themselves this week," or I've, like, gone and told her mum that her 10-year-old daughter's died. You know what I mean? Like, normally people aren't having those conversations, and you have to kind of, like, manage other people's emotional responses
Yeah.
when you're going through an emotional response to something.
Yeah.
So, like, because you don't want to upset the delicate nature, you're not gonna bring it up, which is maybe, like, a little bit harsh because a lot of people are more resilient than we give them credit for, but I do think there's something to be said about sticking with your people in the police,
Yeah.
and I've noticed it, especially since I've left as well, that actually I suddenly feel like the one out of the loop,
Yeah.
because I don't know everything that's going on. I don't know all the latest updates on who's got what job and who's doing this and that,
Mm.
what the current rules are on things, like if there's legislation changes.
Yeah.
It's very surprising how quickly you can feel out of the loop. So I think, yeah.
Do you miss being in the loop?
Um, my particular force, no. Literally don't care at all about them. But I loved when I was a cop being like first on scene to this incident and knowing what's going on and finding everything out. Like, I'm naturally a nosy person. I think you have to be a cop. You want
Hmm.
to know what's going on and get all the details. And suddenly being like, oh no, you're not. That's classified. You can't hear that. Or um, even just like not being able to go out and feel like you've responded to help someone in their darkest moment. Although I do that in a different way now, in coaching, it's very different. Like, that sort of adrenaline rush of being first on scene at a serious incident is something that you're never going to really replace in anything you do.
Yeah. Yeah. So policing in the UK and genuinely around the world, it's a largely male dominated industry. What were some of your earliest challenges that you faced as a woman entering the field?
Other women, I I spent the first 5 years of my career being the only woman on a team,
Hmm.
and I absolutely loved it. They joked about me, they made banter about me, I bantered them back. They respected me. I did the roles that worked for me. If you want me to climb through a window, I'm going through the window, but you're going to put the door in.
Hmm.
We had common sense about the different roles sometimes that men and women have in the
Hmm.
police, and they made me feel valued and important on the team and like a really like key member. And then I w I wouldn't say it was all just women that made me feel challenges, but what I've noticed over the last few years, especially since becoming a sergeant, is the people that have sabotaged my career the most are women who are in slightly high ranking positions, but not quite high enough, that, they're changing the world. And they seem to have a perception that there's only so much space at the top for women, so they need to push any other women down. There's not a lot of empowering each other, whereas I'm very much like, there's room at the top for everyone. Just be
Yeah.
good enough. Like, work hard, show up, like, pull your weight on the team, make sure that you're like bringing something of value to the team. You don't
Yeah.
have to be of the same value. It's horses for courses, but you know, there's a bit of a I don't know, bit of a pick me sort of attitude amongst some senior female officers,
Hmm.
which disappoints me because I think you've got a real opportunity there to uplift and empower women in policing. And what you actually do is just uplift and empower yourself.
Yeah.
Like, they always have something to say about everything that happens, as though they're like the spokesperson of women in policing. And you sit there and think, "Mm, you haven't done policing in like years.
Mm.
The people you need to speak to are those on the front lines, those in detective roles, those like I mean, there's loads of different roles in the police where women are making a massive difference. But like, I don't know why we always err towards getting a senior ranking officer that's actually like completely unworldly and out of touch with everything that's going on in the real world.
Yeah. And that's because they haven't been on the front line in X amount of years.
Yeah, and also because they are worried that they will get found out.
Mm,
So their imposter syndrome causes them to project their insecurities on everyone else, so they're pushing everyone away.
yeah,
They don't want to empower anyone because they want to they know they'll get caught out, especially people like me, because I do rub people up the wrong way because I call it out. Like, I respect the notion of rank. I will always use the right address. I will always follow lawful orders. But if something doesn't make sense, I will ask why we're doing it.
yeah,
And a lot of people really don't like that trait. They don't like being questioned because most of the time they haven't got an answer.
yeah. Do you feel like a lot of officers are somewhat afraid to sort of speak up and ask questions, the tough
Oh,
questions, because out of fear of maybe, losing a job that they may be tied into,
yeah, absolutely.
financially tied into?
Absolutely. And it's not even just about the impact of losing an income. I mean, nowadays, the way misconduct works, it goes in every newspaper. You're painted to be this absolute villain if you've done anything wrong. And you think, well, hang on a second, they're all human beings. People might make a mistake here and there.
Mhm,
That
mhm,
doesn't mean that they're a bad person. And they also tarnish people with the same brush. So I'm a massive advocate for tackling violence against women and girls. Do I think they're currently doing a good job of that? No,
mm,
absolutely not. Does it make any tangible difference to the safety of women and girls to keep going after people for making what they perceive to be a misogynistic joke? But I would probably pick that officer over another to come out to me if I was a victim of rape or something, because I know that they would do a good job.
mhm,
Um, I don't think we should just be okay with loads of misogyny happening. But the jokers aren't the ones that have ever caused me an issue in the job. It's the ones that are creepy and underhand and get away with it.
yeah.
So it's not being dealt with properly.
So, as a woman in the force, did you ever feel like you had to prove yourself more than your male counterparts?
Mm,
H-
yeah,
how
yeah.
how did that affect your confidence or even your approach?
I mean, at the time, it definitely knocked my confidence. But like with anything, you build confidence by doing the things you're scared of. But I mean, I remember having a couple of lads on my team um, with egos the size of houses, and they wanted some macho military bloke. They do not want me, and I'd ask them to go and do something, which is part of their job, go and arrest someone, and they were like, "I'm on the fucking blah blah blah," like different type of duty, and I was
Mm,
like, "What?" Like, I wasn't asking, and then, I pulled him to one side after briefing, I said, "Look, if I ask you to do something politely, be rest assured I'm not asking, I'm telling, but
yeah,
because I say it politely, don't get it twisted. You might want someone to walk in and be all military and macho, but if I do that, you'll just go, 'Oh, fucking hell, she's on the blob.'
mm,
So I'm polite to you, but that politeness shouldn't be mistaken for weakness. You need to understand that I'm in fucking charge, and you
yeah,
need to do what you're asked to do. You haven't got the full picture of things that are going on. So if I take you off one duty and put you on another, it's because I've worked out that I need to do that."
yeah,
And they were like, "Fair enough." One of them just walked off silent, but like you sometimes just have to stamp yourself a little bit and then just be like, whatever they do next doesn't really matter because yeah, I'll lift it up more if they do. But
yeah,
in fairness, I think it was a productive conversation because actually I was like, what would you like me to be like? Because I can be a dick or I can be nice.
mm. And I'm
Like,
guessing they chose the nice option.
well, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Would you say then that you were underestimated simply because of your gender?
I think it's a little bit of that, and also I am autistic and have ADHD, which I didn't find out till I was 28, but I've always been seen as a little bit of a quirky, bit like outspoken sort of person. So I think it's been easy for people to underestimate me anyway, thinking I'm a little bit ditzy and things like that, which always makes me laugh because I've got an IQ in the top 12% of the country. But like people make assumptions about you, especially because I'm like blonde and wear makeup and things like that. But I quite enjoy it. I'm like, do your worst, underestimate me, see what happens.
Mm.
But your mistake.
So, what advice would you give young women who are considering a career in policing today?
Um, I tell you what, go get fit, be strong, and make sure that you are one of the women that is lifting each other up. Don't become drawn into the bitchiness. Um, use a little bit of critical thinking. The rumour mill in general emergency services, but particularly policing, is dreadful. Um, I think the best people in the job, the ones that have the most healthy mental health, are the ones that don't get themselves embroiled in other people's drama,
Yeah.
um, and keep themselves to themselves and just stay nice to people. I remember having a conversation with a girl who had recently started, and she was sort of whinging to her male sergeant that she didn't want to um, be out on her own at night because she felt like women shouldn't be out on their own. And I was like, "What are you on about? I'm
Mm.
always out on my own. I'm sergeant, so." And she was like, "Yeah, but like if I have to have a fight with a man, then I'm gonna lose." And I was like, yeah, but look around you at the lads in the office. A lot of them probably will as well. Ultimately, it's about all of the people in this office taking personal responsibility for getting their fitness up. You don't
Mhm.
have to be the biggest person, but don't rely on officer safety training that's gone downhill. Go and get a little bit of extra skill under your belt so that you can protect yourself and build your confidence by being strong and fit. Naturally, I then went out and she told everyone I'd called her fat, which wasn't the case at all. She had the most incredible figure ever. But
Wow.
luckily, I walked out and heard her saying that. And I was like, I did not say that. You are stunning and beautiful and have the most incredible figure. However, you have just said you don't feel confident going out on your own. So, my advice to you would be to build your confidence. Go into the gym. I'm not saying you need to start becoming a bodybuilder, but having flexibility, strength, and the mental resilience you get as well from knowing that you can handle yourself. Just all you need to do is handle yourself till backup gets there.
Yeah.
And you need to be good at talking to people. Like,
100%. Yeah. I agree with that. Now, this is obviously a job where it's very serious things happening on a daily basis, things that the general public, as rule of thumb, aren't really aware of. But
mm,
on the flip side to that, I know that because you're dealing with human beings on a daily basis, sometimes comical things can happen. Without breaking confidentiality, is there a story from your time in policing where something hilarious either happens to you or that you had witnessed?
I mean, there's a lot of different things. I mean, I so just for context, I did a video on Insta that recently about dark humor because you've got to have dark humor to survive
Mhm.
the stuff you go through. But it's weirdly a lot of the time the obscure things or the crazy things that sort of like mess your head up a little bit rather than really, really traumatic things. But um I refer to this incident quite a lot because it's just so shocking. I had to go and do an arrest attempt for someone who was, bless him, a bariatric double amputee who used prosthetic legs and stuff. And he said he needed to go to the toilet before we arrested him. He was prolific for stalking people, find strangers on the internet, and then destroy their life.
Mhm.
So, in and out of prison for that. Don't know if he was mad or bad, but it's a weird bloke. Anyway, we've gone to lock him up, and he was very difficult. And I thought he's not going to be someone we're going to want to be scrapping with, at all. So he said he needed the toilet after an hour of negotiating at the door. He let us come in, and then he walked past the toilet, and I thought that's a bit strange. Do you need to get something from your room? He was like, yeah, yeah, I need to get something from my room. He sat on the end of his bed, pulled his prosthetic legs off, threw them at me, and I was like, what is going on? Like, literally already shell shocked. And then, while staring at me directly in my eyes, and I was going, should I get a male officer? Do you? Do you need some privacy?" He pulled his pants down, so he's completely exposed, picked up a gravy boat off of the side of his bedside cabinet, and proceeded to shit in it in front of me while staring at me without his legs on, and I will probably never lose that image. He then refused to move and was, for want of a better word, just being dead weight.
Mhm.
I think he was probably about 40 or 50 stone. We couldn't use any of the Mega Move equipment because it's too heavy, so we ended up
Yeah.
having to call fire out. He was just he knew exactly what he was doing. He was like, "I don't care, I'm not moving. You have to lift me up, you have to carry me." So 6 firemen with tarpaulin still couldn't carry him. We're trying to think about his dignity the whole time, even though he had no respect for mine.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, it's just things like that where you're like, "Nobody prepared me for this." Like, I knew I'd be dealing with some mad shit, but what in the hellianty is going on?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Wow.
that was quite
That
real.
that is actually quite a mad story. Wow. So
He ended up in prison.
his sole aim was to make that situation as awkward and as difficult as possible for everybody involved.
Yeah, 100%. Like, he's just a selfish person, not, you know, for context, he's not like a war veteran or anything like that in terms of losing his legs. I think it's to do with weight, but, like, it's just he's just not a nice person at all. Like, we're sitting there saying we've got 6 cops here, 6 fire people, and there's other people that need us.
Mhm.
Like, you're just using this time unnecessarily, and it's all a game to some people. And the thing is, even though that's shocking and funny, like it takes a lot of patience and resilience to sit there because it was hours of negotiating with him and trying not to, you know, lose him if he started coming round to our way of thinking. Because he
Yeah.
did eventually go out by himself in his wheelchair, but it was hours of negotiating. Because he had that power of being so heavy that no one could lift him,
Yeah.
or at
So
least couldn't lift him with dignity and safety, and no one's gonna put their back out trying to carry him,
yeah.
like,
So
so
in many ways, your hands were kind of tied behind your back because you were relying on
yeah.
compliance from him.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, and so you do have to be very patient, um, I've that's not the only time I've been, like, exposed to on duty.
Mm.
I've had other instances where people have, like, pulled their trousers down the back of the police van and windmilled at me whilst telling me how small they look. Um, and, you've almost got to you either go into outrage mode and you're like, "Oh god, this is so awful," because it is, it's disgusting, or you've just got to sort of play the game a bit like, "Yeah, it is." And then, you get to the neck, you can decompress a bit, you write your statement, and they go to court and they get dealt with.
Yeah.
Like, you're not gonna necessarily get street justice for everything, but sometimes just being a little bit aloof of things does help.
Has there ever been a time that maybe sticks out in your mind where, again, without breaking any confidentiality, where you felt petrified for your own safety, and you doubted whether you were actually going to make it out of that job in one piece?
Mm. Yeah, it's not, weirdly, it's not like the worst injuries I've had. I've had to have shoulder surgery because 'cause I've been in the police because of an assault, but it wasn't that assault wasn't as bad in a weird way, but when I was a sergeant, I went and found, a missing person, and they were absolutely fine, completely compliant, just running them back to hospital. And it's one of the biggest mistakes I made, and I think that was part of why it was so traumatic, was because I felt I could blame myself. But because she was completely chilled out, and all that she needed to do was be popped back to the hospital, and she was happy to go, I let her sit in the front, and I never ever let people sit in the front. But all of a sudden, she flipped, and she was like, I'm not going." So I stopped the police car because I was like, I can't just kidnap her to hospital. And she was like, I'm going to go and kill people. So I'm
Oh
like,
no.
right, brilliant. She gets out the car. So I'm going after her and I'm calling up the control room on my own. Everyone else has gone to the other side of the county for a stolen vehicle. So I'm on my own and I'm saying I need to know if there's a healthcare assistant there to approve the 136 if I section her. She's
Mhm.
saying she's saying a mental disorder. She's saying she's going to kill people, so there's harm to others. My plan's to section her if she starts running, and they were just taking ages to get back to me. Everyone was talking about this stolen motor vehicle, and then I just had to make the decision, which you're allowed to do. You only have to seek the advice of a healthcare professional where practicable. It's not practicable if someone's got a cannula in and they're walking down the street, so then they're
Mm.
going to kill people. So I went through, I sectioned her, but as soon as I got hands on her, she went absolutely crazy. Um, she literally like grabbed my face, put her hand in my mouth, was trying to break my jaw. Like, it was the most feral fight ever because nothing trained you for that, and that you're not
Mm.
given training for it. I was, like, biting her and everything, trying to get her hand out of my mouth, and then I managed to finally get her cuffed, and then I was waiting for backup. I'd pressed my emergency button, but in the melee, she'd pulled my body-worn video off. She'd ripped my earpiece out of my radio, so even though I knew I'd pressed the button, I couldn't hear if it had even worked.
Yeah.
My glasses had gone somewhere. They were usually on top of my head anyway. But like everything was just chaotic. And then I managed to get her in cuffs. Um, and they were stacked to the front and I was holding on to them. And I'd checked them to make sure they were tight enough. I'd double locked them and everything. And then all of a sudden she just sort of twisted her arm up and dislocated her own wrist, pulled it out the cuff. So now she's got a cuff on one hand and the other hand she's trying to punch you with. So I'm holding onto the car. We literally rolled over the bonnet of the car into the middle of the road, and we're just literally ground fighting in the middle of the road, and members of the public passing, completely ignoring it.
Oh wow.
No one stopped to help. Um, it was 8 minutes before any backup got to me. I had two black eyes, I think. Had bruises all over my legs. She had like a nosebleed and stuff because this was the other lesson. Like, one, obviously not putting her in the front of the car because she wouldn't have been able to get out if that was the case, and I could have probably spoke to her for longer. She might
Yeah.
have still attacked me in the car though. So, but the other one is I hadn't wanted to use force on her because I thought I saw her as a mental health patient, not a
Mm.
criminal.
Mm.
And my empathy side was like, "Come on, please just stop walking off. Stop saying you're gonna hurt people," things like that. And I was being very, very, like, patient when actually I should have been more forceful with her and just taken control. And when she started using force, I should have used more force to win the fight because that is what we're supposed to do. We're not there for a fair fight, we're there to win because we're the police.
Yeah.
Um, but it ended up basically being a fair fight, and I did eventually win. I got on top of her and was like literally straddling her, holding her wrists, and she was still like spitting up and stuff. And I managed to get her cuffed again, and then backup arrived. But I was I was so shell shaken by that, or shell shook, whatever the word is. Um, I literally remember being, like, shaking my hands and everything, and I got back to the station, and I just wanted to go home, and I cried
Mm.
all the way home, and nothing really has affected me like that because I've been through loads of other things where I've just literally gone to the next job, but I
Yeah.
think it's just, like, I just felt really afraid because it was taking so long for anyone to get to me, and I couldn't hear if my emergency button had worked,
Yeah.
so I didn't know.
Wow. And that must have been the longest. Those 8 minutes must have felt
Oh, it felt
like,
like hours, it was ridiculous.
yeah.
And then it
Um.
was only one person at that point. I think it was still probably 10 or 12 minutes before loads of others turned up.
Yeah.
But
What sort of coping mechanisms did you use when you would sort of finish a shift that may have been traumatic?
Um, Probably not the healthiest ones. Doom scroll, have a beer in the morning after a night shift. Um, they're all really common things that we all do, but in terms of general coping and stuff, I actually am a massive, massive advocate for therapy. I've had a lot of different types of counselling. I've had EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization reprocessing therapy,
Hmm.
and that's for PTSD. Um, and I just think people need to talk more. I cannot understate the value of a supportive team around you,
Yeah.
and I cannot overstate the damage that is done by backstabbers and people like doing each other's legs just for the
Mm.
sake of trying to get one up in their own careers. It's so important to look after each other. It doesn't matter. You might make it to the rank of superintendent, but if you've got no one around you because you've alienated them all because they all don't trust you, then you haven't really got a career.
Yeah.
The best thing about policing is the people, and the worst thing about policing is the people.
Yeah. Yeah. So since leaving the police, what have you kind of been up to? What are you doing now?
So, whilst I was in the police, I did a year-long qualification as a professional coach, and I was accredited with the Association for Coaching. And then I went on to set up the Autonomy Network, which is my coaching practice. So
Okay.
everything is neuroscience based because I said I'm not doing anything fluffy. I want all the facts, I want all the proof, and in hindsight, and with a lot of more wisdom now, everything that is neuroscience based is also interlinked with all the other things that you can have and do. Positive psychology, like what's the other one called? Holistic stuff.
Hmm.
Um, they all sort of come from the same place.
Yeah.
They're just worded differently. So Um, that's what I do now, and I've recently launched the Club for Busy Minds, which is a membership aimed at providing more consistent and affordable monthly support bundles for people that are going through anxiety, overwhelm, and chaos, so
Hmm.
they can become more confident, have a bit more clarity in their life, and calm.
Yeah.
So it's very, very worthwhile and enjoyable. I'm always going to miss the police a bit because I loved the there's no job like being a police officer, but I look at the state of policing now and think I'm really glad to be out.
Yeah.
And I actually, my intention is to aim as much of my services to police officers and emergency service workers as possible because I
Yeah.
think they really need it. Um, Having that time and space to really think about your future. 'Cause it's a future focused therapeutic approach. It's not like counselling and things like that where you are looking back. Even though I do things that are trauma informed, it's not like let's open Pandora's box of all your problems. It's like, okay, we acknowledge those things have happened. So where are we going now? How are we moving forward?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing now. So yeah.
Okay. And if our listeners wanted to find you on any social platforms, where can they find you?
I'm across most of them, but on Instagram, you've got the Autonomy Network, and you've also got my personal page, which is at Georgie X Harrison.
Hmm.
And then over on Instagram, it's the Autonomy Network Ltd Limited.
Hmm.
Um, and same name, Georgie Harrison. But I've also got a Facebook group over on the Autonomy Network, which is neurodivergent coaching and community, and
Yeah.
that's growing really rapidly. So we've got a lot of people in there who are looking for support and things like that, and just like camaraderie amongst like-minded people. So yeah, you're more than welcome to find me there.
Good.
And
Good.
of
Good.
course, go to
So
my website, it's www.theautonomynetwork.com.
good. Good. So you've kind of left one career where you were helping people in one way, and you are now forging something for yourself where you're also helping people, but in another way now.
Yeah, I got to the point where I felt like I could help people more on an individual level than what I was doing. I was firefighting in the police because I was
Hmm.
picking up every job. Everyone called me the DV queen because I was picking up every domestic abuse case as a sergeant. And that was where the autonomy network came from as well, because I think most people can recover from things if they can regain their autonomy. A
Yeah,
lot of them are stuck in a victim mentality, stuck in a constant loop of trauma and things because they've lost a bit of autonomy and they're not in the driver's seat of their own life.
yeah.
So everything I do is about helping them get back to that and take back control of the direction they're going in.
Good.
Yeah.
So, final question of the day then. If you could leave one piece of advice or a lesson from your time in service that you would want every listener to carry with them, what would it be?
Oh, it's probably a bit controversial, but this has literally been through my career. But don't be shit. We used to say that all the time. We're like, "Oh, I'm really nervous about this course I've got coming up." We're like, "Don't be shit," because it's not that hard to put effort in and try. Um, if you fail at things, it's fine. Doesn't matter if you fail at things. You can just do it again, but try your best. Like failure is not shit, but not trying is shit. So don't be shit.
Yeah, that's a great bit of advice. Don't be shit. I am definitely going to use that one with my children.
Profound, honestly. Stick that in the book.
Georgie, I want to thank you for joining me today.
It's a pleasure.
The story that you've told me and the listeners are absolutely mind-boggling stuff. It's amazing, what you've gone through with your career, and you've stepped away from policing, and you're now helping the wider public in new ways. And for that, I've got to commend you because I think it's a wonderful thing that you're doing. So
Thank
congratulations to you on
you.
that.
Oh, thank you so much.
It takes a certain kind of strength to serve, but it takes something even more to serve in a space where you're constantly reminded that you weren't expected to be there. Today's conversation was about more than just policing. It was about grit, quiet leadership, and the determination it takes to stand your ground in a world that doesn't always make room for women, but needs them more than ever. To Georgie, thank you for your service and for paving the way, for holding the line when it would have been easier to step back, and for showing others what's possible simply by being who you are. And to our listeners, these are the voices that deserve space, that challenge us to look at tradition, culture, and leadership through a new lens. Until next time, stay curious, keep listening, and honor those who serve by hearing their stories. This has been Call to Dispatch. Thank you for listening.